I really didn't have that preconceived notions that I want to hear this, this, and this, and this. This to me was very, very selfish. You come in there for an experience for the man, let the man play you. Let the man play you what he wants to play you and be finished with it. You know what I mean? You can't tell somebody how to do their job.
Who are we speaking with?
You're speaking with Marshal Swiney, Swiney, born in 1955. Let's see. My experiences of the garage, I would have to go post-garage. I would have to go back to my time when I was studying dance at American University, dance program during the summer. And my exposure was, I met this guy named La Williams, who was also a counselor or a residential counselor at American University for the summer. And he asked me, he says, well, do you want to go out tonight? I said, sure, I would love to go out tonight. And he took me to this wonderful place at 4 o'clock in the morning called the Clubhouse. And that was 1976. Previously, before then, going to school at Florida State, I had been going to white gay clubs. And I had never been to a all black club, which was absolutely wonderful, which was all gay. And I was just coming out at that particular time. And then we would go to the garage every Saturday night, and we would dance, not to the garage, to the clubhouse every Saturday night, and we would dance to the wee hours of the morning. And the wee hours of the morning was more like 11 and 12 noon. So we would be coming home when church was beginning. So therefore, it was a lot of fun. I heard a lot of Donna Summers, a lot of Bohannon, a lot of that DC funk disco type music. And it was very, very wonderful. Everybody was wearing these poodle dresses with and they were dressing in their costumes of things that they wanted to look very, very festive when they went into the clubs. So they would spend all Saturday and Sunday, Saturday getting ready for Sunday morning to go into the clubhouse. And people would have these really, really interesting clothes on, whereby they were using all their imaginations to come up with these outfits. So therefore, he said to me, well, do you want to go with me to New York City for the 4th of July? I said, sure. He says, I'm going to take you to the gallery. If you think the clubhouse is fierce, you have seen nothing until you have seen the gallery and see Nikki play the tunes. So we went in, we stayed with some friends of his in Westchester, and we came down and went to the gallery. Number one, when you stepped into the gallery, there was no description of where you were going. You didn't know where. All you heard was the music coming from outside. But the front of the club, there was no red carpet. There was no gate to go through. It was very, very democratic, except you had to have a membership card. And the reason why they wanted to have a membership card was because back in the day, they wanted to really protect gay people and give them a safe space that they could go and dance in. So therefore, and so you could let your hair down and do whatever you wanted to do in the club. So therefore, what we would do is you went in, they opened the door, and it was like a little hole in the wall. Then pretty soon, when you went into the place, the music, and it was on Mercer Street. The music was just pumping. There was balloons everywhere. People were tripping off the drugs. And I mean, it was just a wonderful festive time. And then we went in there and we started dancing and dancing and dancing. And pretty soon, Nikki started playing Love Hangover. Okay, and he played and he played it over and over and over and over and over again. And the kids was just going in. I mean, it was just absolutely phenomenal. And we danced. He played Donna Summers. He played Love Hanger, Trans Europe. The song that I remember the most was Dr. Buzzard and the Savannah Band. I Played the Fool for You. And that was just a wonderful, wonderful song. These are tunes that I had not heard, that we did not hear in the clubhouse in DC, because it was also a different type of music and a different type of clientele. It was very, very regional. You know what I mean? But the kids would go back and forth. They would go back and forth. So we went into and we had a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful time. And we drove back to DC, and I danced that day. And then the next year, I said to myself, I am going to go to New York and study dance for the whole summer while I was at Florida State University. And I studied dance the whole summer. And then I could not get into the garage because the garage was membership. So what we did was we went to Better Days. So Better Days was a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful club whereby, I mean, everybody was dancing, they were hustling, and also they were voguing. They would get in front of they would go into the back room where they would hustle, and they would also vogue. During that time, I was with a wonderful friend named Chris McKinnon, and we would go and get our outfits at Unique Clothing Warehouse. And we would buy all these things, and we would get very, very festive, go on the train, get on the train, and get very, very festive, and go to Better Days. And there was a lot of transsexuals there. There was a lot of gay people there. It was mainly Black and Latino. And we had a wonderful time. That club closed at 4:00. And then I came to New York for 2 more summers, and I studied dance. And finally, I went back to Florida State, graduated, moved to New York City in 1980. 1980 of November. I went to Virginia, decided that I did not want to stay there. There was nothing for me to do. So my friends told me to come to New York City because they were all from Florida State University. So we came back to New York City, and I slept on floors of people's apartments and things like that until I was able to find a way to live and make money to live and continuously dancing. So during that time, my good friend Donnie Scruggs also came from Florida A&M. We used to also go to this club called Crisco's Disco before we got our memberships to the garage. So we went to Crisco's Disco, and they were playing more like a new age type music, which was really, really wonderful. And that was mainly Latino, white, and some Black. But they really weren't playing. There was a different genre of music. I think it was more British to a certain extent. It was more new wave. It was really more white. There really wasn't that much funk into it. So therefore, we would go there, get our costumes together, and go there to Crisco's Disco. And then finally, our good friend Keith said, oh, it's anniversary night at the garage. And they said, okay, so I said, oh, we want to go. We are going. We don't know how we're going to get in, but we don't have any membership cards. So Donnie and I met Keith and all the entourage there, and they got us in. And during that time, the garage was straight on Friday nights and gay on Saturday nights. And the reason why they did that was really to protect all of the gay men that were going there. And in order for girls to get in, they had to carry a passport. And not a lot of women of color had passports. So therefore, if you presented a passport, that means you were a woman of a different stature. You see what I'm saying? So therefore, you wouldn't get a swarm of men, straight men, coming to chase the girls. And by being membership, it was just a special night just for gay men, which I miss. And it was really, really quite wonderful. So we went into the garage, and it was a long, long line. And we waited in line. It was cold as the dickens because I think it was in either February or January, if I'm not mistaken. And I remember we got to the door, and you could hear the music going boom, 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 boom. And then all of a sudden, when you got to the door, you wanted to cut up because the music was going so much into your soul and your spirit. And you had a sense that you were going to enter an experience of a special, special place that you could be yourself. You didn't have to worry about anybody. You didn't have to worry about people judging you. You didn't have to worry about any of that. It was totally liberating in the best of ways. So when you got in there, you gave your money and all that sort of stuff. Of course, Noel was at the door. Very, very pleasant, very, very easygoing. Not an issue at all. You got in, and all of a sudden, you went up, you paid your money, people smiled and greeted you, you went in, you heard the music was just filling your spirit and your soul. And by me being a dancer and a choreographer, I was ready to go. I didn't need any drugs because I knew how to release my endorphins. It was not an issue for me. And then whenever we went there to take care of business. It was like you had gone through all this stuff throughout the whole week. You knew that whenever you had got yourself together, your outfits together and everything, you knew that you were going to have a festive time. And this is what we wanted to have. And you wanted to be in a safe environment. You don't want to have, just because you looked at somebody wrong, you don't want nobody punching you in your face and all that sort of stuff. So therefore, to me, it was a very, very safe space. So therefore, we would go in around, that time, I think I went in around 2:00 in the morning. And then we went in and we started dancing. We danced until about 4:00. And then somebody went around with the sign said the show is about to start. And they were dancing as they ran around the audience. And I can't remember the woman who performed, but I remember in the, which they call the glass room, they were doing a play of Euripides. You know, in a play, literally a play during the anniversary. I think it was by Charles Lutnam, the Ridiculous Theater Company. So there was a play going on there. There were people dancing on the dance floor, losing their minds and their clothes and everything else. And then there were a room where you could go and you had a movie, and then you had the room where all the refreshments were. So therefore you could get you a little something to drink and all of that. And everybody was just having a good time. There was nobody that was trying to give attitude, that was being nasty to anyone. There was none of that, which was very, very liberating. You know what I mean? And all the kids were gay, and some of them were tripping off of stuff. Some of them were not. Some of them were drunk. People were lighting up joints and all that sort of stuff. So it was a very, very festive night. So with me, I said to myself, I have got to get a membership to this. You know, and I got my membership card. They asked me whether I was gay or not, and this and that and the other. And I'm pretty sure Mike Brody was the one who was overseeing, as he was the owner of the club, and he will oversee, you know, the interviews as you went through. I got the membership card when the next time, I think it was, I can't remember really, but Alex probably would be able to tell you when the membership came around. But I'm thinking it was in the fall. That's what I'm thinking. And I loved the place. The place was absolutely wonderful. I will go once a week. I will only go on Saturday nights, and I will go to special parties. Like I will go to the Halloween parties. I will go to the Thanksgiving, any of the special parties they were having. Those were the parties I would go to. And then I never went on Friday night. Friday night was never for me. I always said that's for the straight kids, let them go and be in their turmoil, because I didn't want to get punched out for looking at somebody the wrong way. That just wasn't my thing. And I knew that they had a metal detector. There was no guns coming in there, and it was a very, very safe environment. Those are the things that let me know that's where I wanted to party. And I always knew where the exit signs were. Always knew where the exit signs were, so that if I had to get out of there, I could. But I mean, I saw Madonna, Grace Jones, Lolita Holloway, Dee Dee Bridgewater, oh my God. Did I say Grace? Grace, Dee Dee Bridgewater, the guy from the Talking Heads was also there. I wasn't there when the night that Diana Ross came. I love Larry's music. People used to say, because I wasn't really that picky about him having a bad night or a good night. I was there to dance. And by me being a choreographer, I was just always open to music. So therefore, I didn't necessarily have to hear the same tunes over and over again. I love the way he deconstructed the tunes. Like, I just love the way he deconstructed the tunes. It was almost like it was a performance art experience. You know what I mean? To see how he was going to work the tunes. And that's where they came up with, I came up with the saying, you have to fuck the tunes. And in order to fuck the tunes, that means you have to deconstruct the tunes. That means you knew the music so well that you could go in and weave a story, where there's, especially when he did Hit and Run, or what's the other one? Love Sensation. All those songs, he knew how to work them. 3 Degrees, all those things, the New York City Peach Boys, he would marinate that tune like it was on your grandmother's stove and she was cooking a meal. You know what I mean? He would work New York City Peach Boys to the point, and you could really sit down and feel the nuances of how he presented the tune. And the only person who does that to this day is the guy who plays for Body and Soul, the Haitian guy. What's his name?
Joe Clausel.
Joe Carcel is the only one who I could see who could deconstruct a tune. Can really deconstruct a tune. People try to deconstruct it, but he's one of the few people, because when you deconstruct the tune, that means you want to take the audience on a journey. You see what I'm saying? And as a choreographer, my endorphins are releasing naturally on that journey. So therefore, I'm going up with you on that journey. So, I mean, I love the way Larry played. I would go just at 4 o'clock or 4:30 so that I could just hear him play. I really wasn't concerned about who was on the turntable from 12 until 4. So therefore, it was really, really good. Another person that could deconstruct the tunes too was T. Scott. T. Scott from Better Days could work those tunes, as we used to say. He could funk the tunes. You know what I mean? And to the point whereby you could just go up with them, or go in with them, which was a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. It was just a wonderful night. It was just a wonderful night. And then you would see groups of people there that you would dance with. And then you would dance with them half of the night. You weren't concerned with going home with them. You know what I mean? You would leave them there. They would leave you there. Next Saturday, they would meet you there again. And you'll have a good time. And you'll leave them. If you see them on the street, then you'll hug them and kiss them and keep it moving. You know what I mean? It was just a wonderful time. It was a wonderful time of the true sense of the word gay fellowship. Yeah, I know people say they did have sex and all that stuff there, but I was just concerned for the dancing. I mean, that's what I was there. I wanted the performance event. That's what I was searching for. And it was a performance event for me. And it's one that I carried on up until the day it closed. Up until the day it closed. And I'm trying to think of, so for that, I think I was a member for almost like 4 years. You know what I mean? I think it closed at 85. I was a member for 4 years and I loved it. So I took Kai because he said to me, he says, well, I want to go out with you all. Go out dancing with us. And there was another friend of mine who was a PhD candidate named Bill Huxwood. And he says, okay. I said, come on, guys, meet me here at 4 o'clock. We'll be ready to go. So he went and he said to me, he said, they're playing none of the tunes that I like. And I said, honey, you'll be okay. I said, you will be okay. You just have to experience it. You know what I mean? He said, but I want to hear the top radio tunes and all of that. I said, this is not this type of show. I said, this is purely underground stuff that you hear first before it gets to the radio. And you go back and hear classic tunes, they have gone out of the radio, but it's still very, very classic and classical within this environment. Because if you heard any of those tunes from the past, you would immediately run to the floor. Like when they used to play the Chaka Khan tunes, like Clouds and all of that. Clouds was old, but you would still run to the floor like you had heard that tune the first time in your life. And the way he played it and deconstructed it and reconstructed it, it was just absolutely amazing. It was a phenomenal event. and all the kids could dance. There was none of this shit, which I call shit, whereby you get up and you stand in front of the DJ and you move from side to side. There was none of that shit. When you went in there, there was a marriage between the DJ and the dancer. And also with all your life situations and tribulations and all those things that you had experienced during the week that you wanted to get through. Because some people would say the Paradise Garage kept them alive. Okay, it was very, very much like a musical dance therapy. Okay, so therefore this thing whereby all these big DJs is making all this phenomenal money and you got the crowd sitting up there just listening to them in the middle of the dance floor and nobody's dancing. I call it the Europeanization of dance music. People would go and stay in the middle of the floor. Whereas if you wanted to listen to the music in the old days, you were around the periphery. You gave the honor of the floor to the dancers that wanted to dance. And if you ever felt like you wanted to come into the circle to dance, you were allowed in the circle, whether you were with somebody, whether you didn't have anybody, whether they were friends of yours, whether 3 or 4 people, what was going on, you were invited into that circular situation. This stuff whereby the Europeanization of dance music is just phenomenal. It's to the point whereby they get in the way. You feel like they really don't know how to move their bodies. I don't understand that one at all. And then also, a lot of the music is not really danceable. It's not danceable. I mean, when we went into the garage, into the loft, and all those places, people dealt with it. I mean, they knew how to break it down. You would think you were on the continent of Africa. So now you have these people who think they can move their bodies, but really can't in an improvisational way. Do you know what I mean? So therefore, when you came in there, you danced. You danced for the moment you got onto the floor. You maybe danced for 2 hours straight, literally. Then you would go out and get some water, get some cookies, drink some more, and come back on. Because you wanted to hear the tunes of whatever he wanted to play in his repertoire. So you were open to it. So I really didn't have that preconceived notions that I want to hear this, this, and this, and this. This to me was very, very selfish. You come in there for an experience for the man, let the man play you. Let the man play you what he wants to play you and be finished with it. You know what I mean? You can't tell somebody how to do their job. So what else can I tell you? You're gonna have to pick my mind.
This was great. Thank you. Talk to us about, would you bring a change of clothing when you went to the garage?
No, I didn't live in Brooklyn. I didn't live in Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx, or Staten Island or Jersey. Those kids had to come in on the train. Those costumes could not be, some of them were coming out of their neighborhoods and their family members didn't know where they were going. They would go over to a friend's house and get dressed. You see what I'm saying? So they rarely did you see people on the train. What they did is they brought these big bags. because a lot of people wanted to change clothes, get into less clothes that were less sweaty. But for me, because I lived in the city and the city was always considered to be very, very strange. So we could always just go to the club with what we had on. Because at that time I was living at 102nd, 99th, 101 in Broadway. So it really wasn't that much of a big deal for me. And, but there were some kids that used to come in there, they used to make their outfits. I mean, in fact, in all of New York City, it was a famous thing for people to make their outfits to go to the club, whether they were going to Studio 54, whether they were going to the Loft, whether they were going to the Fun House, whether they were going to any place. People would come together and put together their outfits so that they could go to the club to see that, which is really, everybody think the ravers did it, but they really didn't. To me, a party at the garage is nothing but an extension of a rave. That's all it is. That's really all it is. And what they did was developed it. That's really what it is. It's nothing new. Because we did costumes, we did all that sort of thing. You see the same thing in a rave, but they don't have any, I think because of the AIDS epidemic, they don't have a connection to it, so they think they did it. But somehow somebody saw it in one of the clubs. And if you look at Studio 54, the videos and even Garage and all this sort of stuff, everybody had costumes on. It's not unusual. So, you know, it's like a lot of times I think they invented the wheel, but they really didn't.
Tell people what is a loft, and do you remember the first time you went to the loft?
The Loft was a David Mancuso spot. I went to the Loft after the Garage had closed because you had two camps. You had a Garage camp and you had a Loft camp. Even though you knew the Loft camp, all of that, but you have to ask Archie Barnett about the Loft. And I'll give you his telephone number. Because Archie Burnett was more of a lofter and a whacker. I was more of a garage head. You know, I love the Paradise Garage. But I did go to the Loft. The music the Loft was a little bit more like going to somewhere between a club and a house party. Because the DJ wasn't up, like Larry was up at least 12 to 15 feet in the air. David Mancuso was on the same floor, but elevated just a little bit. And it wasn't as large as the Garage. And plus it was on the east side. And during that time, that was during the crack epidemic. So you were running and walking like a bat out of hell, moving fast, going over there on Houston Street. And you were moving like a bat out of hell. So it was absolutely wonderful. So I only went twice. Yeah.
Yeah, because my next question was, why did you choose to become a member of the Garage and not the Loft or the Saint?
The Saint, okay. Oh, you really know your shit. The Saint, to me, I went to the Saint twice. And I went to the Saint when the White Boys was there. And the White Boys had this high energy type music. It didn't have a strong down, a strong one. It had a strong up. It was an uppy type music. Boop, 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 boop. It was that type of music. So therefore, that never turned me on. I mean, it never did anything for me. The Loft, I can't say anything about David Mancuso's spot. I mean, I think I could have did either or. I didn't have a point of view against that spot. It's just that, you go to what you know. And the garage was just phenomenal. You know what I mean? And it had all of it had a good reputation. Even the buttermilk bottom that Nicky Ciano did, Ciano, if I'm saying his name correctly. But there were so many places to go that you went to the place that you felt the most comfortable with. You know what I mean? Yeah.
What's your view?
Because once we got our garage cars, we stopped going to Crisco's Disco and Better Days and all those places. Number one, I would have been burnt out and been back in Virginia if I would have continued that. You could only do it once a week. Otherwise, it would take a tear on your body like you would never believe. Go ahead.
Speaking of tear on your body, let's talk about dancing. Some dancers are now having to have hip and knee replacements for, I guess, going crazy on the dance floor. How have you maintained your health?
How have I maintained my health? Oh, well, I think number one, see, I come out of a strong dance background, and I was trained at Florida State University. So therefore, I knew how to, even today, like I still do yoga. I know certain things to keep my body together. Whereas those bodies that were in the Paradise Garage were untrained dancers. And if you don't know how to get into that stuff, and if you are doing it day in and day out, it does have a wear and tear. If you're not doing massages and all that sort of stuff, yeah, you're gonna have problems. Your hips go and everything, especially some of those the early break dancers, your early loft dancers, those guys that get on the floor and do all that stuff, or the guys and girls that do it also. I mean, you got to know how to do that stuff. You got to know how to build your body in such a way that you are able to carry that through. Because one of the best persons I've seen do it is Rennie Harris. He's also a professional dancer. You heard of Rennie Harris?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Rennie, I think is smart, because Rennie does African, he does ballet, he does modern, he does, he does house music, he does all those things. So therefore, he has that wide movement vocabulary to be able to induce all those things and be able to train himself and his dancers in a way that he can continue to move in the way that he needs to move. And he probably still can move in that way now if he has to. But generally, we are older now.
What's your view of membership-based dance clubs of that era versus those that didn't have memberships?
The ones that didn't have memberships were messy.
Explain.
They were messy. Because once you got gay kids and straight kids together, you don't know what can roll out. That's the reason why I think Mike Brody did the separation. Okay, we'll give you all Friday night, we'll give you all Saturday night. Because once you look at somebody the wrong way, it gets messy. So therefore, and gay kids are not going to go a lot of places whereby there's a lot of girls in the old days. They just weren't doing that. And if there were, they wanted no more than 30% of girls in those clubs. That's the reason why you had a lot of gay bars, a lot of gay clubs. You don't have that anymore. You have a mixing of the two genders and sexualities, whereby before you just did not have it. You just didn't have it. I mean, in order for a straight man to go to a gay club, he had to be very, very special in himself. I mean, knowing who he is. And then you begin to see straight kids going to the shelter, you know, and all of that. I'm not so sure how that worked because I only went a couple of times. You know what I mean? I didn't go that much. It was not my favorite place. But I always wanted to be in a safe environment. I wanted to be in a safe environment. If I knew that it was all gay kids there, I could finish. But I can't deal with a straight man who's homophobic and all of that. I'm just not dealing with it.
Talk to us about the relationship between New York City club DJs and record stores and record labels. Didn't you used to work at Sam Goody while you were?
You know a lot. Who's feeding you these answers, Kai?
I do my research.
That was a really, really wonderful experience because I got to hear all types of music. I worked at Sam Goody's at 51st Street and 6th Avenue. And that was wonderful. That was a wonderful, because I got to hear everything. That was because it was a flagship record store. A lot of times they had a dance music section, but it wasn't large. That's not how they made their money. They made their money off of the top 40s, you know, jazz and rhythm and blues and classical and new music and all that sort of stuff. So, I mean, it really wasn't, if you wanted to hear really, really good stuff, you had to go down where Manny worked at. I can't remember the name of the place. But where Manny worked at is where you could hear all the latest dance music coming out, which was where all the DJs went to hear the music. And then you also had people who were just dance enthusiasts who would go to Manny and buy all the latest records that Larry was playing. And another thing, they would also get cassette tapes and buy those from Larry so that they could play them at home or on the beach or at a party or something like that. You know what I mean? So, but also too, a lot of the stuff, a lot of the artists, recording artists would have Larry play some of the tunes first. So, because if it worked in our market, then it would be mainstream. Case in point, a lot of Madonna's work, like Holiday, all those songs were tested at the Paradise Garage. A lot of Grace Jones stuff was tested at the Paradise Garage. A lot of Lolita Holloway stuff a lot of stuff was tested there. The Talking Heads stuff, we got to hear it there. As my good friend Howard Simon, which we call Howita Simon, he told them on the last night, he says, you know, y'all should take this whole damn collection and put it in the Smithsonian Institute. And it properly belonged there. That's where it belonged. I wish it was in the African American Museum at the Smithsonian Institute. That's where it deserved, because he had the tunes. He really had the tunes. But I think the records themselves, I think mainly it was a Black and Latino thing. I think until whites could figure out they could capitalize on it, become capitalists and make money off of it, then that's when it took themselves away, like the way you see it to now with all these DJs that make this huge amounts of money and they play these big halls. You really don't find that many Black people that are playing that, you know what I mean? But the whole concept comes from disco days. That's the reason why they had to rename disco, you know, and then the burning of the disco records and all that sort of stuff. You see what I'm saying? In a way, it was kind of racist, but they had to find their niche in order, you know, y'all making too much money over here on this. So we got to bring something else in so that we can make some more money. Called capitalization of it. See how can we make money? Another capitalization of it is playing these big halls whereby you have amusement parks and all that sort of stuff. People that's sitting up there looking at the DJ like he's on this glorified king of this situation. It was never like that back in the day. Never like that. We came there to dance. Came there to dance. What else do you have to say?
What's your view of the current nostalgia of New York City nightlife? Everyone's nowadays talking about the golden era of house music.
That's a hard one. I don't like to say it's a golden era. I think it's just a continuum. Everything goes into peaks and valleys, ebbs and flows. I don't think dance music would ever go strictly away. I think that we will always be able to dance. Dance is a primal thing that we have inside of us. I'm happy to see what I think it's going to be. I don't know what it's going to be, but it will be a continuum. Just like disco ran into house ran into Larry, the disco house. Then you had the stuff that came out of Chicago. Then you had the stuff that came out of Detroit. You even go back even further, you could find Trans-Europe Express that came out of Germany, 1976 or 77, which was the beginning of techno. You see what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is that everybody thinks they've done something new. It's just a continuum. It just moves forward. Yeah, that's all it is. It's nobody's doing anything new that has already been written. Everything's been done before.
What is it? Sorry, go ahead.
I can't say it was a golden age, but then again, maybe I could say it was a golden age because it was a golden age that I definitely enjoy, but I also want to see the continuum too. I don't want to be locked back there in that particular aesthetic. I want to be able to move forward with the next thing. But that's my singing to myself as a dancer choreographer. I love the stuff that's coming out of South Africa and Africa. Yeah. Because that's true dance music too. There's no doubt about it. And also to see them do house dances from what they've gotten off of the internet and all that sort of stuff, to see how they have interpreted it and see the way it's going around the world. You know, it's quite amazing to see. It really is. And then the influence of hip hop and all that sort of stuff, how it's meshing together. You know what I mean? Yeah.
What does the term soulful house mean?
Oh. Mm. Soulful house to me is nothing but a terminology. I think everything that we listen to from the disco era, from the house era, from the techno era, all of it can be soulful because your body gets into it. You know, your spirit gets into it. It's, you know, all these categories is just to put there to make money. You know, soulful house ain't nothing but church house, like the Clock Sisters. Mighty Clouds of Joy, which is early disco. Who else? Lolita Holloway Gospel. Patti LaBelle, Music is My Life. If that ain't soulful, I don't know what is. So I mean, so when you come up with these genres, it doesn't make sense to me. Yeah. Okay, keep going.
Roller disco.
Roller disco.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God. Oh God, you really want me to go back? Okay, let me tell you this. First time I went to a roller rink was in Newport News, Virginia. I'm gonna show you how it's a continuum. They will put records on that were of the time, like Motown and all that sort of stuff, and we would dance around the basketball court. And what happened? People would go skating on Fridays and Saturday nights with their skates, and probably in Central Park. Then the next thing you know, they added disco music to it. So it became a continuum. So now they might have stepping music to it. Have you seen the newest roller disco stuff they do now?
Mm-hmm.
It has stepping to it. It has some hip hop to it. It has some rap to it. It has all that. It's just whatever music people are listening to that wants to be heard, it's inserted and it becomes a continuum.
Dance music and drugs. You are quoted as saying, and I quote, "If you're not getting high off the music, you're doing something wrong."
It's true. If you have to have an artificial substance in order to have a good time, when you have wonderful music around you, and you can't release the endorphins yourself, then something is wrong, deeply wrong, because you don't need to do that. Because what you do is, if you look at African dance, you know, ceremonies and things like that, and coming out of the Yoruba tradition, you don't necessarily have to have drugs in order to go into a trance. That's a transcendent thing that you do within you. You don't need to do that. It's never been my thing. And plus, I never wanted to harm my body like that. That makes sense. Yeah. So you really have to. So in other words, you have to know who you are. And if you know who you are, And if you know you can dance, you really don't need those things. Because an old lady could get on the floor and dance without having any type of drugs. Sometimes no alcohol either. And then if you have to have alcohol and drugs to make you dance, what does that say about you? What does it say about you? Especially in a place where you need to feel, where you could come in and feel yourself and comfortable.
Which record stores did you go to back in the day to buy music, and why?
To be perfectly honest with you, I didn't buy that much music. Most of my stuff was given to me because I worked at a record store. But the stuff that I did have, because I had a lot of stuff. I did have some club stuff, but I can't say that I had a collection like some of my friends. They have like a hellacious collection. You know what I mean? I gave my stuff to them. I gave everything I owned to them. But I didn't have that much to do that. Because also I was a choreographer too, so I was collecting music for that too. And that could go anywhere from jazz to classical to house to new music to anything that I wanted to use. Because I wanted to have that repertoire in my head that I could just pick, you know, what I wanted for pieces of choreography. If that makes sense. Okay.
How did your dance training prepare you for club dancing?
I think my first of all, my dance training for Florida State University was very, very good. But I've always loved dancing at parties and at clubs and things like that. I always enjoyed that. But I mean, it did allow me to release endorphins. It allowed me to get into a trance moment. It allowed me to sing along with the songs and harmonize with the songs and make sounds out of the songs. It allowed me to be uninhibited, to show out if I needed to. And most of the times I did, because I wanted that sense of celebration. Yeah. So I mean, my dance training made my body very, very strong, very, very in tune, with a lot of insight and foresight. Mm-hmm.
Will the garage work today?
Oh, that's a hard one. I'm not so sure. But I think it's worth a try. I am not so sure, because we have come so far in the continuum. A lot of the older DJs are no longer playing music. And they've also got out of this concept whereby there was a house DJ that you heard whenever you went to the club. There was 4 or 5 people on the roster that you heard. There was no such thing as these guest DJs that go around the world playing everywhere. You know what I mean? If the kids from Germany came to the garage, which is what they did, they put it in the tourist book as a tourist attraction of New York, and all the Germans started coming and all the Europeans started coming. You know, The music did not go to them until much later, probably in the 2000s, because Frankie then was playing pretty much here. And then pretty soon they moved over there. And I also think that's when people stopped dancing and started Europeanizing, whereby the DJ would be in front of you and you would dance and you would listen. Whereas during the 80s and 90s, everybody, you went there to dance. You didn't go there to listen unless you were really, really high on drugs. You know what I mean? And you were bopped in with it. But for the most part, you wanted to dance. The garage was about dancing. The loft was about dancing. The fun house was about dancing. Studio 54 was about dancing. You never saw anybody facing the DJ at Studio 54. Every club now you go to, they are facing the DJ listening to the music. Nobody's dancing. So therefore, I don't think it's really a marriage anymore. It's like a divorce.
Last question. What advice would you give to the next generation?
Take it back to the roots. Get out of this proscenium European bullshit. Take it back to the roots. Let's get married again between the DJ and the dancer. Let's dance again and express ourselves through the music. Learn your body. Know what your body can do. Dance with your body, no matter how awkward it may be. That's the experience. It's to have the body, mind, spirit connection with that DJ playing those tunes and being able to throw it back at him. It becomes a conversation. There is no conversation with me going like this. This ain't it. Never will be it. This ain't it. That ain't it. Let me see what you really can do. Pull down your pants and pee all over the floor. You know, it's like when you go to a house party with your family members. Everybody in the family throwing down. Ain't nobody sitting up there looking at each other, bopping from side to side. You'll have a much better time. You'll have a much better time. Because when we were there to deal with stuff. Because it was a hard week and you wanted to let it down. If you wanted to scream, you could scream if you heard the tune. You could tell them, go work that motherfucker. You see what I'm saying? I mean, it was an experience. It's just like jazz. Jazz was something that was done in a concert hall whereby people danced to jazz. Mingus danced. All of a sudden we went to Europe. Next thing you knew, we're listening to it. The body has totally been removed. Is it that intellectual to the point whereby you cannot move to it? Or are you gaining a higher sense of sophistication and intellectualism with your spirit getting involved to move your whole body through it? If I want to go hear Mozart, I go to a concert hall and hear Mozart. If I want to go to a dance club, I want to dance. Those are my thoughts.
Thank
Did I
you.
say too much? Did I
This
say
was
the wrong thing?
fantastic. This is fantastic. Thank you so much. I
I
appreciate
tried to give you a little bit of a, I think I gave you a good bit of a history.
you did.
Mhm,
This
yeah.
was fantastic.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.
Uh-huh.